Drinking buddies, one of the recommendations I always give to people who are new into whiskey is find a local distillery that you love. For me, there are two. Whiskey Del Bach. I just totally broke that cork. And Adventurous Stills. I've talked about Whiskey Del Bach a lot, but I haven't talked that much about Adventurous Stills. So let's dive into Adventurous Stills. And if you can't get Adventurous Stills in your area, don't fret, because we're going to be talking more about the subtle differences between types of whiskey than we are about the whiskey itself. Let's go. I'm your drinking buddy. All right, drinking buddies. So we have one of the best distilleries here in Arizona is Adventurous Stills, and they made this product earlier in the year, which is one of my favorite whiskeys of the year. It's 133 proof bourbon that was aged in like the hottest part of their warehouse for 5 years. This thing tastes like it's like 15 years old. Look how dark it is. It is so good. It is awesome. The climate here in Arizona is different, so you get different whiskeys out of aging stuff here. So they say like in like Scotland, if you age something for 10 years, that'd be the equivalent of like 2 or 3 years in Kentucky. That would be the equivalent of a few months here in Arizona. So you can get a lot of, not age off of the whiskey, but you can get a lot of oak extraction. So you're gonna get a completely different whiskey if you age something for 10 years here in the desert than you did if you aged it for 10 years in Scotland. In fact, if you age something for 10 years in the desert here, chances are you might not even have anything left in the barrel because there's going to be so much devil's cut and angel share that come out of that bottle, that come out of that barrel, you might not even end up with very much when it's all said and done. So we have 4 different whiskeys from Adventurous Stills that I wanted to highlight today. We have, this is a new release. It's going to be a, 95 proof blue corn whiskey, which was aged for 27 months. We have the Lost Dutchman Rye, which is also 95 proof. Really interesting whiskey where they take the corn out of a rye and add in winter wheat. And so you get that nice wheated bourbon thing off of a rye. Works out pretty well. And then we have their American Single Malt, and this is 90 proof. And then lastly, we have it's like a campfire style whiskey. It's called Fossil Creek Whiskey. It's called 92 proof. And this one, I will freely admit that I am kind of back and forth on. I like it sometimes, I don't like it others. It's a very weird whiskey, so I gotta be in the right mood for it. But let's just dive in with this blue corn whiskey and see what we're doing here, because these are very different whiskeys. We got a blue corn, we got a rye, we got a single malt, and we got a very, very weird campfire whiskey that's kind of like a smoked bourbon in a way. What is the mash on it says it's made from corn, wheat, and rye. Yeah, so it's kind of like a bourbon, but it's done with a smoked mash. Anyway, doesn't matter right now. We're on the blue corn whiskey. So the only other blue corn whiskey I have ever had is from Balcones, the Baby Blue, and I like it okay, but it's not like my favorite. Smells like cornbread. Giving me like mellow corn vibe on the nose, like that caramel and maybe a little, instead of the peanut that you get off of this is like dark chocolate. This is like dark chocolate mellow corn. Loaded with flavor. There's a lot going on there. There is no young corn going on here, despite the fact that that's only 27 months old. Like I said, that climate here is just wild. That's done in actually Tempe, so hotter than it is in here in Tucson. Yeah, this has got stone fruit. This has got like a mesquite dark chocolate thing. That's just really solid. That might be the best of the bunch. Let's find out though. Yeah, this one, you have the rye next. If you were to put this in front of me and say, what is this? Off the nose, I wouldn't know it's a rye because it's very out there. It's very like grain forward on the nose. With just a subtle like herbal thing on the end, the tail end of that nose. A little bit of a caramel thing as well. Yeah, that is smoky. That is fun. That is very interesting. So yeah, I don't remember getting that much smoke off of it the last time I had it, but yeah, that is pretty darn smoky. Dark chocolate, caramel, oak, and just like a really really strong smoke note that rounds out the finish. But not like smoky scotches, more like smoky American single malts. So not necessarily Band-Aids and iodine, more like smoked meat and like barbecue notes. Now we have the American single malt, and I have pretty high hopes for this because my good friend who works there, Steven from Tipsy Whiskey Shenanigans, if you've never seen his channel, I'll link it down below. Very, very good whiskey tuber. One of the only other whiskey tubers I watch. He he works there, and yeah, anyway. This smells pretty good. There are no youthy notes coming through on here. This is just more like barrel char, little stone fruit, and like apple. It's fruity on the nose. I would highly recommend this one if you're someone who likes not Scotch, Irish. If you like Irish whiskey, that might really be for you. That is really giving me Redbreast vibes with the peachy stone fruit thing, and yeah, that's really good. I would say that's one of the better single malts I've had. That's really good. It's up there with Whiskey Del Bach and Westward and Stranahan and Balcones, like the guys who make really good American single malts. That's up there with them for sure. Good job, really good job, guys. The last one here, I will admit, is not my jam all the time. I do like it sometimes, but it's pretty darn smoky. Like, it just smells like barbecue, and like, man, it is so smoky. It's burning mesquite. Barbecued meat, roasted mesquite, campfire. Yeah, like I said, you got to be in the right mood for that one, and I'm not in the right mood for it right now. It's one that I have a hard time recommending. No offense to the great people who made it. I'm a big fan of what you're doing, but it's just most of the time not for me. I mean, I've had this bottle for like 3 years, and I've only drank about half of it, just because it doesn't jive with me all the time. I got to be in the right mood for a smoky whiskey, and when I do, I usually have a very specific thing in my mind, and that is a smoked American single malt, mesquite smoked. And so I go to Whiskey Del Bach 99% of the time if I want something smoky. If you like barbecue, though, that is so barbecuey. That is smoked brisket. That is pulled pork. Yeah, smoked meat for days. Little subtle dark chocolate, like bitter dark chocolate thing on the finish. Yeah, they're all good whiskeys. I'm not going to recommend this one just purely because I think it'll be too polarizing. I would recommend the single malt for people who like Irish whiskey. I'm going to recommend the rye for people who like bourbon and rye, because it is a very unique thing. The smokiness on here is more subtle. It's more palatable to someone who's not used to drinking smoky things. And then I'm going to recommend the blue corn whiskey for people who like a little bit more of a sweeter bourbon, because it is very sweet. I'm going to recommend this one for people who like Scotch, American single malts, Balcones especially, because it gives me the vibes of that, but Baby Blue, but better. I do like this better than Baby Blue from Balcones. If you want some weird whiskeys, you want to adventure around, Adventurous Stills is a great way to go. But also, if you can't get Adventurous Stills, don't fret. You just need to find some creative whiskey makers in your area. They are out there. Find someone who's doing fun stuff in your area, and indulge in some local spirits, because helping your local market will make them bigger, make them cooler. Then I can find their stuff. You can hype them to me, like and SLB Drinks can find them, Bourbon Junkies can find them, you know. Hype your local distilleries, because I really feel like that's one of the best things you can do for your local whiskey market. You know, like I said, I have 2 great distilleries in my area, Whiskey Del Bach and Adventurous Stills, and I'm going to keep talking about them. It's going to keep happening. So if you're upset that you can't get them, you know, it's okay. Find some local spirits that you love, because I promise you, there's something nearby you that's small, that's limited, that delivers. I mean, this is one of the best bourbons I've had all year, and was made in Tempe. Well, drinking buddies, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit like before you leave, subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and I could really use your help if you could do those 2 things. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
I'm your drinking buddy.